Hi, this is Ryan Bush with Pacific Reiki in San Jose and Aptos, California. When someone is going to receive Reiki, we will often remind them that they'll get the most out of the experience if they are as open as possible. We'll also remind them, for example, to wear loose clothing and perhaps to take off any metal jewelry during the process. But the question of why it matters whether someone is open or not while receiving Reiki is actually a fascinating question that gets at the heart of how Reiki works. After all, Reiki, whether we're sharing Reiki with someone else or receiving it, is fundamentally a process that's related to our human energy field, and our energy varies based on a lot of different factors. The most relevant factor here is the question of whether we're in a contractive state where we're hunched up at some level, whether we're talking a whole amount of discomfort and contraction, or whether we're open. When we are in a lot of discomfort or pain or fear or tension of various kinds, we will go into a contractive state where our body is held relatively tightly. Uh, we'll see that in the muscles being tight, and that also carries out to how our energy reacts, because our energy is closely related to all parts of ourselves: our body, our mind, our emotions. Uh, when one part of ourselves is in a contractive state, even if it's just a very, very small amount, then our energy field tends to clamp down in such a way that it's rather like a turtle going into its shell. Our energy field ends up having a sort of uh, barrier, which we wouldn't normally be able to see at all. Some people are very sensitive to uh, energy and are able to see it in a way, like, for example, Virginia Brennan, the author of the Hands of Light book, talks about being able to see people's energy fields in different states. And when someone is in this contractive state, uh, it looks a lot different than when we're in the fully open state. So, when someone is receiving Reiki, if they're tense to some degree or another, whether it's extremely tense or just a tiny, tiny bit tense, then their energy field will be contracted in that way, having that shell, and then energy from outside won't be able to penetrate in as effectively. They may still get something out of the experience, but it's more likely to be uh, at the more superficial end of the experience rather than more deep and profound experiences. So we've talked a little about that contractive state, and then naturally it only makes sense to talk about the expansive state as well. When someone is learning to practice Reiki, we will encourage them to be as open as possible, and there's a whole process of working with the various energy centers at the hara, or the belly, the heart, the head, the crown, to gradually open each of these energy centers, as well as um, concentrating and energizing these various centers. And the overall process is of entering this fully open, highly energized state where we don't have that hard shell around us. If we're trying to practice Reiki and we're feeling tension or contraction to some degree or another, then we won't be able to share Reiki as effectively, because we ourselves will be stuck inside that hard shell like a turtle inside its shell. So if we're trying to share Reiki with someone else, we need to be as open as possible, feeling that radiance and uh, being able to share energy with someone else. And so uh, the process of Reiki works most effectively when the person sharing energy is fully open and the person receiving it is also fully open. It's important to mention as well that we will naturally go into that fully open state when we're feeling emotions like happiness, joy, love, compassion, and all other states where we're filled with strongly positive energy. Those are all highly open and expansive states, as opposed to the heavy contractive emotions like fear, anger, sadness, jealousy, greed, and so forth, which are all contractive emotions. So there's a whole lot more to say about these contractive versus expansive states, but that's a brief overview of why it matters what state we're in if we're receiving energy, as well as why it matters what state we're in when we're sharing energy. So if anyone has any thoughts or questions, please let me know. Peace, love, and blessings.